Well, good evening, everyone. This is John Craig,
And this is Sandi.
and it's good to be back with you on this edition of Walking in Spirit and Truth. We missed last week because I had to be out of town, and but I'm back, and we're back. I just happen to be at the office. Sandi happens to be at the house, and it's all good.
Yeah, it is. And we want to thank you guys for praying with us today, and we want to give you an update. Why don't you start, John?
Well, so those that have been following along with our saga and our things that have been going on, following on actually just to keep up with our son Jonathan, because many of you all have been very interested. Many of you all have been praying, and it's so much appreciated. Some have even donated to help with the legal funds and all of that. But as you all know, uh-oh.
You're still on. As you guys know, that it is still an ongoing time, but we were able to see parole today. And myself and John and Jonathan's wife were able to go in there and speak along with his lawyer. And it was sort of nerve-wracking at the beginning. Actually, the whole time. It was very stressful. I was exhausted when I left. But we got to present Jonathan's character and plead, basically, please let him come home immediately. And so that was good that they actually let us go in person. It was the lawyer's first time actually meeting in person since the stuff, since the vid. And and so it was good that we got to go in there in person, because I always think it's better to add a personal touch. But the warring hasn't stopped, because we still need to pray that Jonathan receives parole and that he has an immediate release and doesn't have to do classes. That guy wasn't very optimistic about that. But you want to know something? Our God, our Yah, is bigger than their ideas and their ways, considering he's already taken classes. He's already taken a class, and they even actually said, well, the shrink that gave him the class is really great. We like her, but we want him to do our class. Well, the real motivational factor is that they've received between $80,000 and $120,000 for everybody they can sign up for a class. It's always about the money. Follow the money. But are y'all still bigger than all of that?
Yeah,
so,
and what that class does is it must be completed before release, is what they're saying. So we're praying
which
that
he's
they
already
just
had
waive.
the class,
Yeah,
but he's had the class.
We're praying that they waive it and say, just go home.
Because he has already had a class that does those same things, but we paid for that instead of the state. So anyway, we need you to continue praying. That we saw one member of the parole board today, and there's a total of 7. So whatever notes he took and ideas will be passed on to every other board member. So we need to pray that they read those packets and they truly see Jonathan for who he is. And they say, you know what, there doesn't need to be a stipulation on him. He needs to just go home, be with his family, and go on with his life. And we can do that as we all pray together and keep standing and speaking and calling things that are not as though they are, and going from there. So anyway, anything else, John?
Well,
Jump in there.
I was looking at, there's an issue with Twitch going on. Not sure how to fix that.
I saw that. No, we're not. It happened a couple of times ago too, so we're just going to ignore that. Anyway, keep talking.
Well, I was just going to say, just my own version of what all happened today was, to me, it was an emotional roller coaster, because it's like you get one shot before the parole board member, but it's an opportunity to, as Sandi said earlier, to display the type of character of who Jonathan really is, that we can put a personal touch to, that documents and letters and accomplishments and classes and all of those different things that are also presented and are made available to the parole board. All of those different things, we were able to put a personal touch. And as Jonathan's attorney had said, this is like a conveyor belt. And these parole board members. I mean, they're just seeing one case after the next case after the next case, and uh, and not every inmate has an opportunity to have family member to stop the conveyor belt and visit with one of the parole board members, by which they can say, "Oh, wait a minute, let's put a real world face on the community that's gathering around Jonathan," and
Right.
and so that's what we did. And I apologize.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue. So thank you for praying, and we want you to keep praying. And we are still we're coming close to the end of Psalm 91, and I'm going to briefly just go over touch a couple of high points that we brought out last time on Psalm 91. We were going over verses 11 through 13, and then we're going to move forward. But one of the things we were talking about is guarding and keeping, shamar. And we did speak how that's used over 400 times in the Old Testament. And it actually means to watch over with great care. And it's used to describe actions of like a night watch over a city or tending a garden. And it's also, watching over Yah's commands, his instructions, and has a lot of power to it because it expresses this concern for Yah's commandments because they form every part, the very fabric of how we live. It's our life. But I want us to use that word to guard, to keep, that we see in Psalm 91:11. For he shall give his angels charge over thee concerning you, to guard or keep you in all your ways. And I want us to expound upon that just for a moment. And I want us to look at that as it's compared to the Aaronic blessing, just because it's going to, and over what we spoke of in Job in Life of Worship a few weeks ago about being hedged in, because those words create this beautiful word picture of how Yah protects us and he keeps us and he guards us. So most of us know the Aaronic blessing. May Yehovah bless you and keep you. Okay. And that's number 624. I want you to just keep those words in your mind right now, because we say these a lot. Do we truly understand what they mean, to bless and to keep? Because they can be sort of abstract. But the Hebrew word for bless, of course, is barach, and which literally means, one of the things it means is to kneel. Okay, so keep that in mind. And barakah, which is a blessing, but if you look at it a little bit more literally, it is like bringing of a gift to another on that bended knee that we just spoke of when we talked about bless. So when we bless Yehovah, or when we bless one another, we are literally bringing this gift on a bended knee. And that's truly the greatest in the kingdom is the servant of all. And we think of a true king. A true king is one who serves his people, or somebody who's going to humble themselves and come to his people on bended knee. But yet that's what we are supposed to do too. We are supposed to walk humbly. So now let's put this with shamar, because the word keep is shamar there, shamar, which again, we give that guard aspect of it. But there's another word that is related to that word, and it's shamir, and it means thorn. Okay. Now, what would that have to do with guarding a thorn? Well, when you look at what shepherds did back in that day, but when a shepherd was out with his flock, when a shepherd was in the wilderness, he would literally make this corral of thorns to protect the sheep from predators. It was a guarding over the sheep. So there would be like this crown of thorns that surrounded his sheep. And it was guarding the sheep. It was protecting the sheep. And this break, go ahead. Were you about to say something?
No, that wasn't me. Sorry.
Okay. With this
concept,
with this concept of the Hebrew words, we can look at the beginning of the Aaronic blessing now, and we're going to be able to relate these words across the board and see how they add meaning to one another. But with the Aaronic bless, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. So what it's saying here is Yahweh will kneel before you, presenting his gifts, and guard you with a hedge of protection. Okay. And there's much more, of course, to the Aaronic blessing. I've actually done a teaching on that. But here we have this other word for hedge. Okay. This hedge of protection. Now, when I spoke with you guys, well, I spoke with our congregation on the meaning of hedge, and I've referred to it a couple times since then. But there's something amazing about those words, sakak and savak, because both of those words are used for hedge, but they have each one has a meaning that adds to the other and gives you this beautiful picture of what it's like to be hedged in. So when you're hedged in, it's like this interwoven fabric that is around you, this interwoven fabric that uh, that is a fabric of protection. Okay. That's what it's like to be hedged in. Imagine being hedged in by the Father in this fabric of protection. That is pretty amazing to even think of that concept, to know how safe would one feel to be hedged in like that, to be taken care of like that. It's going to be pretty amazing. But so you have this interwoven, intermingled fabric that surrounds you in this tapestry of protection. But when you look at the other word, it also has this idea of being surrounded, but it's surrounded by something else. It's surrounded by Yah's passionate love for you. So to be hedged in is to have this interwoven, intermingled fabric that surrounds you in this tapestry of protection and the love of Yahweh. Okay, now, if that doesn't start making you feel pretty secure, it should. Now we add this to this idea of being presented with a gift on bended knee, and that he lifts us up, that he's going to take care of us, and that he's hedged us in with his protection, and that he's guarding us, that he's keeping us, that he cares. He cares who we are. You're not just a number or someone that can be easily overlooked. He truly cares, and he's guarding, protecting, hedging you in, and he's going to lift you up. He's going to lift up you up, but he's going to surround you with everything he has as he's looking upon you, and he's going to set you in place to make you whole and complete. Now that's this idea of guarding and keeping. And then you add it to being hedged in. I don't know if we should feel, that should make you feel very secure, because he tells us that Yah is giving us his angels with a divine order to help us carry out our lifestyle in love, and we don't submit to the fear of the enemy, because he's keeping us, he's guarding us, he's hedging us in. That should make us shout. That should get us excited and know that we enforce what he's got, that we his victory, because he's already won it, and we are taken care of along the way. As long as we are putting him first, we're serving him, we are following his commands. So when we are truly repentant for the things that we do, when we don't let the list get long, when we take care of things as they come along the way, because that's what David did. You take care of them and you follow his instruction. You don't betray Yahweh, but you follow him, and he takes care of you, because there may be all sorts of things out there that come along that threaten us. But here we are with this promise that he's giving us the gifts we need. Now, what gifts would he be giving us? He'd be giving us the things that we need to fight the battles we're in. And Joe says that's why we are to wear our armor, for that's Yeshua covering us. Amen and amen for that. So here's this beautiful picture of partly of what this verse means. Now, of course, does it stop there? No, there's so much more to these verses, and we're going to continue on. We're going to continue on with these. Let's see where we want to go next. Did you have anything you wanted to say on that, John?
No, I was just thinking about a couple different things, and I was thinking about how Yeshua says, "I am the good shepherd" over there in John, and I'm going to go over there real quick and take a look at that. So bear with me. John, I think it's John chapter 10, and it says, "Truly," let's see how far down it is. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter by the door into the fold of the sheep, but climbs up some other way, he is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is a shepherd of the sheep. To him the doorkeeper opens, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. Well, where are they? They're in the corral. They're in the corral that is keeping them, that's guarding them, that's hedging them in. And when he puts forth all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. And a stranger they simply will not follow, but will flee from him because they do not know the voice of strangers. This figure of speech Yeshua spoke to them, but they did not understand what those things were which he had been saying to them. Then it says, verse 7, Yeshua therefore said to them again, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. And all who come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. And he goes on and he talks about that, and he talks about the hireling and all of that. But that shepherd who builds that hedge of protection, and then the shepherd lays in the opening. So he is the door. The shepherd who sits there in the opening of the one side of the hedge. When he gets up, he lets anybody in that needs to be in, or lets anybody out, or he calls the sheep to come out to pasture and tells them to go in. He's the door. He's the doorkeeper. He's the gatekeeper. And he's also the one who lays his life down for the sheep. Because why? Because that's where the shepherd sleeps, is right at the doorway. And he lays his life down right there. So nothing's going to come into that place unless they go through him first, and he will die to protect his sheep.
Yeah.
So I just think that's a really great example where it says, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. And angels is not necessarily angels, but it is a dispatch as a deputy, a messenger specifically of God. And so it can be an ambassador, it can be an angel, it can be a king, messenger, a prophet, or priest, or a teacher, or it's Yeshua. And how many times that we see in the Torah where we see that the angel of Yahweh is the one who led them. It was the angel of Yahweh who appeared. And so and when you look at the details of that, you can see that is Yeshua. So he is the one that is the angel. He is I'm not saying angel like we think of the little figurines or whatever, or however new age you want to get with it. We're not talking about that. He is the one on dispatch as a deputy on our behalf.
Amen. Well, since you were there, that's actually a good segue, because I was just going to briefly touch on Melachim or Malach, the angels that we're speaking of here. So it's the Melachim, which actually comes from the word Melech. And Melech, of course, as you said, means a king. It means a ruler. It means a messenger, or quote unquote an angel. And in this context, it seems to call for an angel. That's what we traditionally put in this in this context. But say why not use the word king or messenger or ruler or boss instead? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it fits. See, he will give his kings, he will give his rulers, order to guard you in your way. Now, why would you say that? Because ultimately, don't we just want Yahweh to protect us? Yes. I mean, he's the ultimate protection. Everything else is lesser than him. But let's think about this, because that's what happened with Ezra, and that's what happened with Nehemiah and Esther and many other people in the Word. Yahweh took kings that did not serve him, that were godless, and he gave them charge over his people, and they to bear them up with their palms. The word palms actually is differs from the word hand. Is the hand is the symbol of strength, whereas the palm is the symbol of humility and protection. So the enemy, so what you have here is that when we look at Esther, when we look at Nehemiah, and we look at Ezra, what do we see? What's the commonality with those people? They sat under godless rulers, but there was a protection over them. In fact, there was favor upon them, that they've somehow opened their ears up and acquiesced to the requests of those we just listed. And so Yah's hand is there protecting them, Shamar, hedging them in. But he's also, it also shows us that even if we have godless rulers around us, he's still in charge. And I like that picture. He's still keeping us. And he may even use those godless kings to protect them. So you're not jumping in there and saying anything, John, and I'm waiting.
I thought you were on a roll there. No, but okay. So think about this. What when we think about Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, those were their Babylonian names, and we think about how they were placed in the charge of the I don't know, whatever the guys in charge of all of these young people that came from Jerusalem. They were going to be used in leadership and counsel for the king, and they had someone that stood up in their defense when they said, "Hey, we're not going to eat this food." And they're like, I don't know about this, but give us 10 days. They reasoned with them, and the guy ended up saying, "Hey, check it out. Y'all did really good. That was a good thing. Everybody's going to do this because you're more healthy." I mean, to think that we have an administration that we live under here in this nation, we can actually come around and say, well, just because we have that and they're making rules against us, why not believe that Yahweh will make circumstances, no matter what the rules look like, still favor us as believers? Why should we not believe that? Why should we believe that we're just in a really bad position? And I just like what you bring out in regards to kings, because a lot of times we think about this verse in terms of Yeshua, who is with Hasatan. We talked about this last week, 2 weeks ago, sitting on top of the pillar and saying, "Cast yourself off of here," and because the angels are in charge over you, and they'll keep you, and they'll bear you up in their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. But wait a minute. So, we own, this is how we think coming from the churchianity side, angelic beings in a supernatural sense to guard us and protect us. But the very fact that these are kings, people in charge, people that have been sent, emissaries, ambassadors, whatever capacity, whatever level, that God can bring somebody in to show up at the right time, right place to protect us. It could be a police officer. It could be a doctor. It could be a pastor. It could be somebody. It could be somebody off the street that you'll never see again and you've never seen before, that just shows up the right time and place because they were there. Just like we were talking with Eddie and Tammy Johnson about this man who had run out of gas, and so somebody showed up and had a gas can, and that gas can gave them enough gas, filled their tank, and got them all the way home, wherever they needed to go, in a place where there were no gas stations. Supernatural provision to show up. Who knows what we could come across, but we should always understand that angel is not necessarily an angelic being, though it can be, but it's going to come in so many different forms and fashions that we should not put God in a box and recognize that it is a messenger that God sends on our behalf, to dispatch as a deputy coming from his throne. What a tremendous thing. Sorry.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like an authority, because who orders kings? Yah does. So you have that Melech, which, yes, it's angel. Yes, we have that. We get that. But let's use those other layers, and that authority, our boss, our supervisor, if we find our shelter in the shadow of his wings, he's going to order those who have authority over us, our bosses, our supervisors, to keep us steady in our ways, and they're going to protect us, even if they do it unknowingly. So we're about to go to verse 13, but I want to briefly look at stone here, Kafah or Evan or Kafah, if you look at the verse with Yeshua, because that's what the enemy misquoted when he gave that when he was testing, he was being used to test Yeshua. But when we look at stone here, we all have talked about living stones, Ebens, before, which you can look at it even as a little stone or something that can be thrown. So why did the psalmist use Eben? Why did he use a pebble rather than a zur, which is more like a rock or a kafah? And those are just questions we need to think of and know that he's going to protect us even from those small things. And then we look at dash, nagaf, and it means to stumble, which that's how it's basically interpreted. But if you stumble even on the little rocks, the pebbles, think about little rocks and little pebbles, they can get in your way and cause you to slip and you didn't even see them or know about it. Yet they can cause you to stumble. And if we're protected against even those little things that we might not notice, you're going to notice a rock in your path, right? Azure, you're going to notice a big rock, but you might not notice that pebble that's become smooth. And once you step on it, could just slide right out from under you and knock you down.
Okay,
and
so I was just going to say, think about this. Think about those little pebbles that somehow get washed down, like at the end of the driveway. That's right on top of the pavement, and it's a little bit of a slope, and you got those pebbles there. That's slippery. I was just thinking about that. You can slip and fall right there, even though it's solid ground. Okay, sorry. I just think about that.
Well, that's basically what we're going to say is he's protecting us from that, because those ways, if there's an obstacle in your path, you're going to notice it, but you're not going to notice something small that's underneath your feet that could cause you to fall, or that something small that's along your way that could cause you to fall and you didn't even know it was there. So I think this promise is so much of a blessing, because we always think of the big things that trip us up, but here we're talking about the little things. And then when you put all that together, it's Yah's going to humble the kings and the rulers and order them to guard us in our ways, and they're going to hold us up so we don't stumble on the little rocks, the little pebbles, the little things. That he's going to order his angels to guard us and keep us. Whatever form or fashion you want to stick in those words, is that the bottom line is that as long as we trust in him, as long as we are serving him, as long as we put his word and delight in his word, he's got us. And yet we worry and fret and wonder, does he really have us or not? Because we don't trust him. And that's really sad, because we should. He is our king. He is our all in all. He is the one who makes a way where there seems to be no way. He's the one that knows that we're in the midst of the fire, but he's there with us, to put it in the story that you spoke of just a little bit earlier. So would you go ahead? We did not do that at the beginning of the show, but would you read Psalm 91? Let's go ahead and stick with verses 9 through 13.
Okay, let me just add this real quick before I read that. And in that verse of 91:12, about where it's talking about dashing your foot against a stone, think Hebraically, and that in regards to a foot, Greek thinking is like we're looking at the thing that's inside our shoe, right? Isn't that what we think of when we think of our foot? But Hebraically thinking, what's the function of the foot? It's to step forward with. And so he's going to bear us up so that we are not defeated in our steps. So the steps that we make are solid. That
the steps of a righteous man.
Yeah. The steps of a righteous man are ordered of the Lord. And so think about how it is that we get up out of bed every day to put one foot in front of the other to accomplish all that he sets in front of us to do. In other words, along our path, or like it said in the prior verse, to keep thee in all thy ways. So in other words, to head you in all of your the paths of righteousness, the road or the course of life that is before us. Each footstep that we take along it is that has the opportunity to be defeated, to slip and fall, to be struck down, to stumble. And he provides the solid ground. So that we are not even a little rolling pebble under our foot is going to dislodge us, because our steps are going to be made steadfast. So I think that when we break that down, what a tremendous picture that gives us to be. So let me read Psalm 91.
Hold on. Before you do that, I wanted to say something else. So you go ahead and find. If you look at another aspect, we are always called what in Scripture? We are, one of the things that we as people are called are living stones. So in the word there is Evan. So if we even think of that, put that now in that place. There's a stone, even if it's another believer or a friend that may be a foe or a frenemy or something like that might cause us to stumble. Think of it in that aspect as well. Because now let's take it out of the physical or the obstacle that's not human in the way, and add that human form as the stone that might cause us to stumble, because that puts a whole nother layer of protection upon us right there, if you think of it in those terms. So
absolutely. What a great point, because even what we in ministry have experienced is that where, just because someone attends a congregation doesn't mean that they may not have some vices within their lifestyle that, when they befriend people within the congregation, that they might just pull them into that lifestyle with them and be that stone, that living stone, that is that obstacle, that issue that causes someone else to stumble.
Or it could be a person that's a stone that has other diabolical ideas.
Motives. Yeah. They have alternative motives. They cause division. They have a different vision for what's going up. But here's so that brings in another thought, is that how good the Father is to reveal to us when we are in the shelter of the Most High, to keep us discerning as to who is among us, whether it's believers or unbelievers, so that whether it's a living stone or a dead stone, we are much aware of our environment and the obstacles that along the way, along the derrick, along the course of life that we will run across. And so we should always be alert. I like what President Reagan used to say. He used to say, trust but verify. And so this is, that's a really good point about what is a stone. I mean, how many of these things, how many of these idioms and metaphors are just loaded into this scripture that just by taking a little time and pulling it apart, Sandy, like you're doing, is really good work. All right, so let me go ahead and read Psalm 91 from the beginning through verse 13. And it says, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to Yahweh, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For it is he who delivers you from the snare of the trapper and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you may seek refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and bulwark. You will not be afraid of the terror by night, or by the arrow that flies by day, of the pestilence that stalks in darkness, or of the destruction that lays waste at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not approach you. You will not, you will only look on with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. For you have made Yahweh my refuge, even the Most High your dwelling place. No evil will befall you, nor will any plague come near your tent. For he will give his angels, his melech, charge concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. Then they will bear you up in their hands, lest you strike your foot against a stone. That's verse 12. Do you want me to go to 13?
13.
You will tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you will trample down.
All right. Okay, so I want us to look at verse 13 now. Yeah, we're closing in towards the end. But when you see if you would, John, name the animals that you see or the creatures that you see listed there. Verse 13.
In verse 13, so we've got the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent.
Okay. So here we have, now, along in today's modern age, are you going to run across lions and adders and serpents and dragons and young lions? Probably not. But
No.
if we look at those metaphorically as one of the layers, the first word that's used there for lion is shachal, shachal, and it's normally used for a lion in much more of a poetic sense. But the word itself means to howl and to cry out and to roar. So it gives you this idea of a lion. And when we think of a lion, what do we think? He's the king of beasts. He's the king of the animal kingdom. And when you think of a roaring lion, of course, it can strike fear.
Yeah, Hasatan roams about like a roaring lion.
It can strike fear, especially if it's a hungry roaring lion. Okay, so I want you to just, now that we've just said briefly a little bit about that, I want us to look at adder, or which is the word bethen, which is normally used for a poisonous snake or a cobra or an asp or a viper or the adder. And back when this was written, snakes are common. Poisonous snakes in the Middle East are there. And normally, if you get bitten by one, you're dead within 30 minutes to 6 hours.
I don't like snakes. Cool.
I know you don't. I know you can't handle those. But, of course, none of us like poisonous snakes. Okay, that sounds bad. I don't like snakes like, oh, I want to have one, but I'm not fearful of them like you are. So I'll just put it that way. But if it's a spider, that's a whole different thing. Anyway, when you get bitten by a snake, you're going to have swelling and respiratory labor, and it begins almost immediately. And that's why when Shaul was bitten by the viper, everybody else just stood around because they were ready for him to keel over. They knew that he was going to keel over any minute, and then it didn't happen. So that spoke to them of a miracle right there. What?
Wait. You just said something about when you got to get bit, then one has respiratory labor. Made me think.
We probably need to. Why don't you take notes? Why don't you take notes and say that at the interim? Seriously, why don't you write that on a piece of paper real quick, and then you can talk about it in a little bit. All right. So here we have this adder, we have this bite, this sting, this piercing of the skin that causes death. So this cobra and this asp and this viper. But when like I said, if you were bitten in ancient times, there wasn't cure. You couldn't go get out the snake venom kit. You just wandered off and you waited to die. And so snakes and lions were creatures that would strike fear into the hearts of men. The very thought of them, the coming upon them. But there's something different. Why does it mention young lion? Now, the word here is actually different than it is for the word for lion we just looked at. And the young lion, it's the word Kepher. But this word is also used for village. Now, isn't that interesting? Now, we know there's something relational that's going to be about these words because they add to each other's meaning. So what is there about a village and a young lion? And I want us to think about how lions live. Usually there's a male, then there's a whole bunch of females and the kids, right? They create sort of this village, this habitat, this family, and you even see that there's a Disney movie that shows that. And you have the female, the lion, and her cubs, and it's sort of like this village. And now what happens is that the younger lion comes in, as the older lion is beginning to lose his strength, they begin to war over who takes over the village, who takes over the family, who takes over the den. And as long as that older lion can cause that younger lion beat him, there's not an issue. But there will be a time when that older lion has become weaker as he's aged, and the young lion then comes in, and he is a threat because now he wants what was once this other lion's stuff. Okay, think about this in terms of life. This young lion is full of vigor. He's full of strength, and he wants to take over what has already been established and leave the other lion out to die, where he would be trampled underfoot. So why would you think we always? I guess in the past you think about young lion, you think of a cub, but it's not talking about a cub. It's talking about a young lion. Think about this, that's ready to come and take what's not his. Are you guys thinking about that? Are you think a threat that's coming to take what's you have? That's something's coming in to try to take away what you have. So here we have this village, this young lion and this kafir sort of coming together. And I think it's amazing that here again we have this promise that something coming in and trying to take over that's full of far more strength than we would note, or we might even have, but we rest in God's strength because he's going to protect us from that young lion coming in and taking over the pride.
To take over, to take over the thing that the older lion had built.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, just think about. I was just thinking about what we've walked through in ministry, and many people that have had congregations would understand this as well. When one who labors among the people and spends time with those people and works with those people, and then here comes somebody that, oh, they look great, they look like they're going to be a great asset to the congregation, and the next thing you know, they're taking everything that you have worked for, or we have worked for, and cause a division, cause a pulling off of people to pull them away to start their own group, or how many times have we seen people come in and say, oh, you go to, what church do you go to? What congregation do you go to? You go to that. Well, you need to come to my church. You need to come over here to ours. That pulling away, or in order to destroy, the things that wasn't theirs to touch. They were to be, maybe to be part, but not theirs to take over because they weren't called to do it.
Right.
Anyway, I see it from our own life experience.
Well, that's what I was trying to. I was trying to get us all to see that something trying to come in and take over what's not theirs. Joe says, "Hey, I will not have a young lion come in and take away what I've been given by Yehovah, for I'm covered in the armor." Joe also said you also have to think once you have the foundation done, they can come in and dictate what needs to be done, and next even when not done in the word. And that's true. That's exactly right. Now let's look at the word trample, which is ramas, and we're going to look at the Akkadian word used by the Assyrian soldiers, just sort of as a word picture here, because when they defeated their opponent, they would put their foot on the head of the opponent as he lay defeated on the ground. So the victorious warrior would raise his weapon, and that he used to defeat, and he would raise it over this guy's head and put his foot over him or on top of him, and it would be that sign of victory. So we may be attacked what seems to be like stronger forces, but in the end, we will place our foot on its head in victory. I thought of when I was studying this, I went to the enemy's camp and I took back what was stole from me. He's under my feet. He's under my feet. Satan is under my feet. Remember that old song? He's under my feet. He's under my feet. Yeah. And when I was studying this out, that song just kept ringing in my head, because that's what you picture. He's under your feet. So we have this word picture to trample, that you're standing upon the enemy in victory with his head under your feet and your sword, the word, raised high. So that's a great picture. Now I want us to look at this other creature, this briefly. We could go into much more depth on each of these, but for time's sake, we're not doing it. And it says serpent in a lot of translations. but that's more of a poetic couplet. It's actually dragon if you look at it.
Yeah, that's what the King James says.
It's dragon here. So we will tread over the lion and the poisonous snake, and we will trample on the young lion and the dragon. Okay. And so why? So if you look at the word, it's tanin, and it's rooted in the idea again of these terrible night sounds, like a jackal that makes blood curdling sounds. And it's in the past, it's been used to somewhat express a monster. So what we have here with the lion and the adder, we have a picture of something that could possibly be feared, but the couplet of the next two, the young lion and the serpent, or the young lion and the dragon, is much more powerful. Those are much more powerful things that we could fear in the natural, if you look at those two couplets together. So here we see this idea of this monster, this dragon. Phoenician sailors used the word to describe sounds in the night that were associated with sea monsters. And so it's something that's going to strike fear in man. And then we also know that the dragon is synonymous with what? Hasatan, the enemy, right? So we have these word pictures here, but all of these four have the ability to strike fear or strike terror in the hearts of men. They have the ability. Doesn't mean what should happen, but they have the ability. Yet this passage says we're going to tread upon the roaring lion, the poisonous snakes that we're going to darak. Okay, darak, which means tread. It can also be an idiom for being Torah observant. And Peter issues a warning about forsaking Torah when he uses this word. So it's like treading down an enemy in battle. But it's very close. Derek, the way. We think about this, and tread in the way, in the word. We have this in the path. All of these words are right there together. We will tread on the young lion and the cobra. So what does this word picture bring to us here? Is maybe we're going to follow our path, go along the way, and those who seek to destroy or overpower us, to get to our villages, to get to our families, to threaten us with words or things that would strike terror, and maybe even things that seem more natural, like earthquakes and asteroids and collapsing economy, not to mention the physical things that are in our way that can possibly even be our brother. But they'll be overpowered by who? By us, and we're going to be protected, and we're going to put our foot on their heads and be victorious over all those threats of terror. And that's what it is. They're threats of terror. So this passage should give us reassurance that as long as we're following him, that no matter what report we hear, whose report do we believe? We believe that word, and we believe this Psalm 91, that we're going to be taken care of. It's all going to be okay.
Okay, so I was just trying to put some pieces together here, because I'm thinking what you were talking about, that treading has to do with that word darak, which has to do with the word direct, which is about our manner of life, which is a Torah lifestyle. But it's more than a Torah lifestyle. It's a Holy Spirit filled Torah lifestyle. It is because we're talking interdimensional here, because we have to be men and women in the army of Yah that are operating interdimensionally. We live in the natural, but we have our antennas up in both the natural world and the supernatural world, in this dimension and that spiritual dimension. So we are aware. We're not unaware of the wiles of the enemy. We're not unaware of how he manifests in the physical, but we know that the source is that this is a battle against good versus evil. This is a battle of spiritual kingdoms, the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. And we recognize that. But here's the key. The key is that how much of the battle do we actually have to get involved in because in that supernatural empowering by the Holy Spirit, because we're living out a Torah lifestyle, is an empowering lifestyle, because that walk of righteousness is an empowering lifestyle, then how much happens outside of our knowledge, that literally the Father has us so hedged in, so surrounded by this hedge of protection, that things are happening, but it's not coming near us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're walking that lifestyle out, because we're walking the fullness of His Spirit. We're walking in a way where we hear His voice behind us saying, "This is the way, walk in it." And so He might say, usually go down that street every time to go home tonight. Tonight I want you to go another direction. We don't know why. It's totally uneventful when we go down that way, but we might pick up in the newspaper the next day that there was something horrible that happened down that street at the time that you're going home. And
or we may never know that there could have been an ambush set up and it never happened, because I'm just talking things that can happen because we just listen to the Spirit and the Father protect us. Just like Sandy, when you let the dogs out the other night, and those two vans were out there in front, and there was a supernatural thing that happened, because when they saw you out there, those guys took off. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
but they were basically in front of our house.
So what was going on? Yeah,
what was going on?
What was going on? But something that you carried with them, they're like, "Whoa, I see her. I see the dogs. There's something big behind her that we're not going to mess with. Let's get out of here."
Right.
You got some mighty warring angels on your behalf. So who knows? Who knows what's going on that we won't know until we cross over. So, and we get through the doorway into the next millennium. So those are just some thoughts that I had.
Well, that's good. And that brings us to the end of this portion of Walking in Spirit and Truth tonight. I hope you got something from it. And please give us a like, a thumbs up, and help spread the word. And we want to remind you guys, we have extended our time to register for Sukkot. And I'm saying, guys, please don't delay. We need the family to come together. We need you there. We need you there. Y'all will always make a way where there seems to be no way, but we take those steps of faith. So you guys sign up and join us at Life of Worship, as well as namnetwork.tv, as we come together to create this time together. We didn't create it to just look at each other. We created it for you, for all of us to gather together. And it's going to be an amazing time. So come and join us. If you wonder, we still, we have Neetza Moshe, James and Abigail O'Hare, John and Sandi Craig, Eddie and Tammy Johnson, Eddie Chumney, Dina Dye, and there's a lot more than that coming that are going to be speaking and blessing us. But there's also going to be fun, and there's going to be gathering, whether you can come the whole week, or if you're closer by and you want to come for the weekend or periodically, I don't know, just come. Sign up and let us know you're coming, and be praying for us too. Be praying for this time together. And I also want to say too, if you are able to scholarship somebody, we have people that need some scholarships or some ways to get to point A to point B from where they live. We have people that are in need of that too, and they would be very blessed to be able to have help to get to this part of Texas. Anyway, just there's my spiel. Go ahead.
What a great point is that. And I'm just going to put that call out. If you say, "Man, I can't make it, but I can send somebody. I got family stuff going on. I can't leave my house, but I want to help somebody get there," then let us know. You can go to our website at www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. You can see it scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Just go there, go to the website, and you can email us. And our email is on that site. I'm going to pull it up right here. You can see it LOW@lifeofworshipamarillo.org. Just email us, say, "Hey, I want to sponsor somebody, and this is what I can do." If you've been blessed and you want to just pass that on, I know that we've got some people that would be very blessed to receive your blessing, to be able to come and be sponsored at Sukkot this year. So just to throw it out, thank you, Sandy, for bringing that up.
Are you going to play it?
I am. Well, yes.
Were you not even thinking that?
I was going to. Y'all have seen it.
All right.
But we're going to see it again. Here we go.
I will see you guys. I will see you guys.
Hello, this is John Craig.
And this is Sandi Craig. And we want to invite you to the Feast of Tabernacles 2021. What's it called? Roar from Zion. And it is September 20th through the 28th at Lake Paladuro in Spearman, Texas. And you don't want to miss it.
That's right. So Life of Worship Ministries and Messianic Lamb Network would like to invite you and your family to join us at the 2021 Feast of Tabernacles. Theme is, I'm going to say it again, Roar from Zion.
And it's going to be a great time of fellowship as we gather together as the body of Messiah Yeshua to honor our King. In addition to this, it's a beautiful setting, and we're working to provide a week that serves to edify the body as well as honor Yahweh and promote an atmosphere of worship in the spirit-filled and spirit-led Sukkot.
So we will have some great speakers like Dr. Dina Dye and Eddie Chumney. Of course, John and Sandi Craig, that's us, and more. And along with the nightly worship and teaching, there's going to be special workshops ranging from archery, preps, dance to special teachings, as well as children and youth activities.
And you're going to be able to take advantage of the campground's outdoor activities like volleyball and hiking and fishing and frisbee golf and so much more.
So in addition to these events, we'll have a mikvah and marriage renewal for those who are interested. So we have several different options as far as registration in order to meet everyone's needs.
There's that full-time rate covering the entire Sukkot celebration for adults and kids, as well as
weekend rates for the final days, Friday to Sunday.
Or even the single night or day rates for that first Monday through Thursday. You know what? We have options. We have options for you.
Yeah, so lodging, you can have tent spaces, RV sites. We have a discounted rate at a local hotel. So
anything, you got it. And we want you to join us. In fact, we can't wait until you are there with us.
So join us for the Feast of Tabernacles 2021. Roar from Zion. And if you have any questions, please contact us.
And you can go to www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org and you can get that information or email us at low@lifeofworshipamarillo.org.
All right.
We'll see you there.
That's right. See ya. Okay, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us. Now, stick with us to go on the other side here. We're going to be going over on Twitch and also, of course, at the Lamb Video Network, and where we will follow up with the Craig Report. Also, I want to say thank you very much, Sandy, for bringing that great word to us this evening. Very good. Made me think about all sorts of different things. So thank you, Sandy, for taking care of the Walking in Spirit and Truth this week. And so, see you on the other side. Shalom.